Okay, I think we can begin now then. Welcome everyone to the latest WasteBuild 365. I hope you've been able to spend a few minutes familiarising yourself with the venue up to this point. The aim with WasteBuild 365 is to complement the physical event, which will take place in March of next year in Amsterdam, by keeping the circular conversation going and by sharing inspirational content like we're about to do with Navied and Martijn here, but also by facilitating the new business meetings that have completely dried up over the last few months. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here today. And I'm delighted to welcome Martijn Horsman from the Royal Schiphol Group and Navied Tavakolly from Ecor. Now, this particular session is all about how the Schiphol Group is partnering with Ecor, and it is a partnership to tackle a waste stream on site and to change that waste stream into a resource stream. And we're looking at how this is one example of how the Schiphol Group are working towards their zero waste and their zero ambition targets. So what, as I mentioned a moment ago, we'd like to do is start with a presentation from Martijn, about 20 minutes or so. And feel free to comment in the chat box under the stage feature with any questions you've got or any comments you may have. We'll then pass over to Navied, who will speak specifically about what Ecor are doing to support the Schiphol Group. And then we'll have a Q&A part at the end of the session. So without further ado, welcome and thank you very much for joining. And I will pass over now to Martijn, who will kick off with his presentation. Martijn, it's over to you.
Thank you very much for this introduction, Fraser. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to our presentation about turning waste into resource. My name is Martijn Horsman, and I'm working as a strategic sustainability advisor for Amsterdam Airport Schiphol. I'll shortly introduce the topics that we're going to talk about. I'll introduce you to Schiphol Group and to our Vision 2050. Part of that is the quality of life strategy, and then we'll have the case. So I will move on to the next slide. I would like to introduce you to our group, which is consisting of Amsterdam Airport Schiphol, and we have some regional airports in the Netherlands, the Rotterdam The Hague Airport, Eindhoven Airport, and Lelystad Airport, and as well a couple of participations in international airports, Aéroport de Paris, Brisbane Airport, Terminal 4 at JFK in New York, and Hobart Airport at the Tasman Islands. And then about Schiphol Group. Oh, wait a second. The figures of our annual report 2019 show a glimpse of what has been, because obviously in these times we've had a dramatic fall in business, which is showed on the right side. We expect to be back on the level of March 2019 in about 23, maybe 25. And this makes it very special to be operating in this time of year, because we're looking at a lot of difficult positions for all the airlines, for the whole aviation industry. And I think that the message is that we have to reinvent our business like any other business in the world. To give you a view on the destination that we have developed for our industry. We had a major effect on business by COVID-19. Nevertheless, our vision and sustainability goals will not be changed. The effect will probably be a bit less because we have got to limit all our investments. Investments have been cut down severely, but still we think that if we take the proper the proper measurements for these investments, then when we scale up, the measurements will be scaled up as well. So it will rather have more effect on quantity than quality. So we hope to be of better when we get to a point that we can invest again, and things will be going up. Like quality will follow the quantity. Our vision 2050 was built on 3 pillars. It consists of the quality of network, the quality of life, and quality of service, and it's enabled by a robust and safe organization. And we are now on a topic about circular economy, which is part of the quality of life. And then I will get you an introduction of our vision and our quality of life. Let's see, next slide. Hey, doesn't work. Here it is. So, quality of life. Zooming in on the quality of life, you can see it's built around sustainable aviation, energy positive communities, and circular economy. Sustainable aviation is all about our plans to have a say in making the aviation industry more sustainable. So it's about investments in biokerosene or maybe even synthetic fuels and smart clean mobility. And energy positive is not that hard to understand. It's about the energy consuming part of our operation. So the energy is about the operation. The sustainable aviation is more about aviation sector, where we are depending on, of course. And then the communities, which is more about bringing people to work on and have a good work-life balance and have a healthy environment. So today we will focus on the circular economy because that is what this case will be about. When we joined the CE 100 program in 2016, we aimed for this goal, zero waste in 2030. This was a declaration by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and we are to discover what zero waste really implies. So what we need to do is make a plan. So what is zero waste airports? We address zero waste as designed for disassembly while using renewable bio-based materials, reusing components, and bending residual streams into resources for upcycling. This means that we are to look into our processes and to improve the way that we build and that we design. So we have to train people by offering workshops, by encouraging them to attend seminars and share learnings on, for instance, Yammer, a platform that we use to inform each other what we're doing. And we will publish our showcases in order to change the subject from extraordinary to actually common practice. We have secured our sustainability goals in the contracts for maintenance, and we share trainings and workshops with our main contractors in order to have a common knowledge about circularity and to keep improving it. It is something you have to do together, because on your own you will not make it, and it has to be in the blood and vessels of everyone that's connected to this job. So that's why we secure things in processes and in TPIs, so we can prove to each other what we are doing. By doing so, we not only save resources, but energy as well, and we will decrease ultrafine particles and emissions as well. And design for disassembly and a proper registration in a business information model will save us time. It will eliminate failures in our asset management, and therefore we will save money as well, while offering a healthier environment at the same time. So in this transition, we have to work together with startups and that's work for and there's work for social distance people, which means that a part of the communities that was in the quality of life is also connected to this job. It's not about the corporates who bring the change in this transition. It's actually the startups. So the corporates have to work together with startups to get where they want to be, and to be leading instead of following. And as a public-owned corporate, we cooperate with various public organizations in the metropolitan region in Amsterdam. So it's about Amsterdam. It's about the municipality of Haarlemmermeer, where we are located with our airport, as well as different institutions like the Dutch railways and that sort of infrastructural huge parties. So by working together and sharing our experiences, we learn from each other, and we bring this to a higher value. Then I would like to present you some circular showcases that we've developed in the past years. You can see a services pillar on the left, where we had displays as a service. We have had a light as a service in our lounge too. And we had in reuse, redesign seats as a service. Lensveld has created a circular line for the Schiphol Group for waiting seats in the waiting area. And these are seats that can be reused over and over again. We have used, for instance, a old hangar from World War I. It is, I think, it's originally British, and now it serves as a bus station in Schiphol Northwest. And it's been really nice to have a go at this sort of a project. Then we have some urban mining cases where we have actually sold a building that is being torn down and built up again about 5 kilometers from here. So that's asking a good question to the market and getting a better answer than you would ever have expected. So this was really a great opportunity, and people saw that and took the opportunity, which is really nice. We also have some old buildings to be demolished, and we have managed to get a lot of these materials into 2 projects on the same spot, where we almost closed the loop for about 90% of the materials. Then we have sustainable food, where we have food that would have been thrown away if not there was someone who could make sauces and soups of it. So that's also a nice opportunity for our shopping area to show what you can do with food that might be against the date to consume. Then we have a cradle-to-cradle morgue and a circular design for a new warehouse and offices. And we have circular design cases for a parking garage. And we were working on a concrete hub to have the concrete that we use in our facilities in our assets to have them reused again and again on our own premises. And there's lots of more circular design cases. And we work with the circularity index and material passports to define the way we are achieving our goals. And today there's one showcase that it's all about, and that's Grass to Ecor. So let's zoom into that. We have aviation safety as a key part of our license to operate. If it's not safe, you cannot fly. Easy as that. The European Union Aviation Security Agency regulates aviation safety for all airports, as for Schiphol. And Schiphol is surrounded by farmlands and lots of water. So a major concern is bird strike. Therefore, we made the environment unattractive for birds by removing trees and incentivizing farmers to change crop for grass. And it's really important that that people have this view on birds and airplanes, and that when you lease land, that you should not be growing crop like grains, because grain will attract not only mice but birds as well. Goose, for instance, which are really dangerous for airplanes. So we have in contracts we have arranged the farmers to grow grass instead of these crops, and we purchased the grass then in order to secure the farmers' income, and in that way we will be compliant to EASA regulations. And the residuals would create a fruitful habitat for mice, which attracts birds. But then the residuals are not to be used as food for animals as well, because there's molds in for repelling mammals, and kerosene residue is also a problem for having it turned into food. So until recent, we got the grass destroyed, but we found a way to clean the grass and then have it refined, extracting proteins for food and fibers for creating bio-based panels, of which we can have our buildings fitted. And in this way, we replaced cost for destruction into a business case for producing protein and fibers to be sold for production of food and building materials of Ecor, which is a huge opportunity, and we even hope that there's more to come in the in this field of opportunities. Maybe we can do more with this sort of waste streams. So that's why we started to work together with Ecor, and I would like to hand over the presentation to. Oh, I see I missed a slide for you. I'm sorry. So I hand over the presentation to Navied. Well, my dog has an eye on someone on the door. So thank you very much for your attention. I will be there to have questions answered. Please over to Navied.
Thanks, Martijn. While you're ending your screen share and Navied's taking over, yeah, I'll just step in. Really interesting project that you're working on here with Ecor, and I'm really interested to hear what Navied's take on it and how Ecor are partnering. There's a few obviously questions that I've been prompted by, and so yeah, really looking forward to hearing Navied's talk.
Good, thank you, Martijn, for your brief introduction, also, and introducing Ecor. My name is Navied. I work as a business developer at Ecor, and since I've joined Ecor, I've been involved in building a partnership with Schiphol to contribute to a circular airport. Obviously, you could see from all Martijn's cases that there's way more going on at the airport when it comes to circularity, but I'm glad that we could play a part in that, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit more. So we have decided to go onto a journey towards circularity together, and before diving into that partnership and a little bit more into those details, I will give a brief overview on what the Ecor technology is and why it holds these promises for a circular airport, but also what it is that makes it circular and how it could be applied also in other fields. I tell you a little bit about the product itself, the Ecor panel, and what could be made out of it, to give you an overview of the broad range of possibilities which are there. And then we dive into the partnership to find out how it is and can be applied at an airport environment. Here's on to Ecor. Well, Ecor for me is represented with this picture, because everything we need to make Ecor is in this picture, and therefore Ecor is a product of nature. we use cellulose fibers, and cellulose fibers is about 50% of the material mass which is there in the world. It is basically a plant fiber. And we look for these fibers in 3 different areas. We look at it, where we look at is agricultural waste. So for example, any plant or crop which is being burned after harvest, that could be a potential fiber source to make Ecor from. We look at it in the city, in the urban environment, and that's where we look at, for example, waste textiles, waste paper, cardboard, and so on. And part of the fibers we look into are those which come out of the food processing industry. So, for example, spent brewer's grain, which is the residual product of a beer brewing process, or the spent coffee grains, which is the residual of the coffee brewing process. And these 100% cellulose fibers, we bring them into fiber soup, dewater them, and add a pressure heat process step onto it, which makes a structural Ecor fiber panel. So to give you an example, I cannot see you now, but I hope you can still see me. This is an example from the agricultural fibers. We used waste rice straw to make this panel. We have an example of the process industry. So in this Ecor fiber board, you will find spent brewer's grain. We have obviously the textile fibers from jeans, which we could use to make Ecor. And I like this one in particular because actually we use the waste fibers which cannot be reprocessed into textile fibers anymore because they're too short. Those are the fibers we can use to make Ecor. And obviously, we have proven that you can make an Ecor fiber board out of grass fibers in collaboration with Schiphol. Now, this technology we have developed it using the cradle-to-cradle design protocol. I'm going to close my window. And we are upcycling about 2.5 kilos per square meter of Ecor panel. We have a cradle-to-cradle certificate on a couple of our fiber alloys, which prove that we reuse about 95% of the water. There's always a moisture grade in the panel that goes with the product, so that's a part we cannot recover. But it's also a non-toxic product, as we don't use binders or adhesives to bind the fibers together, but we bind them solely on their own binding potential. It's free from formaldehydes, off-gassing components, VOCs, and PMDIs. And we use neutral energy production. Currently, we are sourcing green energy, but in our upcoming factories, we are also using own solar panels where we will be energy producers ourselves for the production process. Well, this product, which you saw, is pretty standard. It's a quite thin panel, but we also can laminate them together to make a more structural panel or a more lightweight panel using a cardboard core, which, by the way, is also a very good source material to make Ecor. So here we have both the Ecor on the side and the cardboard in the middle, and this is a 100% Ecor board, and you make a more structural panel. Well, those panels are only worth something if you apply them and make use of them. So we apply them in various industries, in the signing and the display industries, in the exhibition and stands, in furniture manufacturing, and in interior design. So currently, at the stage we are in our development with the material and as an organization, we focus on the interior of a building, because when going outside, it brings even more challenges which are put onto the material, which we still need to figure out how the material behaves in, for example, months of rain or freezing cold, etc. So just to give you an idea what it could look like, everything which you see is printed here is printed upon Ecor, so you can have beautiful signs which then can be recovered again and again and again. You can make exhibition booths out of it, which usually have a lifespan about 3 to maximum 5 days before being discarded. But when making it out of Ecor, it could be reprocessed and become your next exhibition booth. Interior design, this is a case with the Dutch Railways, where we made a waiting room, and all the cabinets and furniture you see here is made out of Ecor. The doors, the closets, and so on and so on. And more interior design, more in an office-like setting. So this is basically what Ecor does. We take, on one hand, waste fibers, and we can transform them into a structural panel, which has a broad range of applications. Now, how do we apply this to Schiphol? We started with a shared vision, and Martijn already touched upon that. We are looking to develop an application and a business case which contributes to the climate neutral airport, a zero waste airport, using positive business cases, and which improves flight safety because we focus on the grass fibers. Now, when you're partnering, you have actually two parts of the supply chain in which we can play a role. On the left side, you have the supply chain development. For Schiphol, this is actually a waste stream. So here we try to transform Schiphol waste stream, which is grass, into a valuable waste stream. For us, from an Ecor perspective, this is really a sourcing process. So we are the procuring company, and Schiphol sells its waste fibers to us. Then we do a little bit of magic and transform these fibers into a panel. And then we go into a sales process. We sell the panels. But for Schiphol, this is actually where they have the procurement power to go for circular procurement and ask their contractors to use Ecor panels in order to contribute to their circular ambitions. So both on the supply chain development, we can help Schiphol transforming waste into value, as well as in their circular procurement ambitions. So we transform cost into income, and we also fill a gap in their procurement demands. Now, this is the grass we are talking about. It's grown near the airport strips. It's harvested in the middle, and we have small grass fibers. Schiphol has about 1,000 acres of grass fields itself, which produce about 7,000 tons fibers per year. Currently, discarding these fibers creates up to 1,000 tons of CO2 per year, which we could recover. But what we have found together is that actually we could save up to 15,000 tons of CO2 per year once these panels are applied into Schiphol's building quest. Why is that? Well, currently Schiphol is still, as almost all companies are, is using a linear particle board or MDF to build its furniture, its structures, its interior walls, and so on. Those panels are unrecyclable panels and therefore need to be incinerated. When these are incinerated, these panels are transformed all the way into CO2. When this is replaced with a circular material, you don't need the incineration. If the grass is disposed, it will be composted. So a large part of the CO2 will go into the ground and still will be captured. But when you incinerate a product with the same weight, you will get all the carbon out, which is then transformed to CO2. So we start up building panels out of grass. But once we have a suitable stock of panels already in Schiphol premises, we can take those back and actually contribute more to the zero emission goals that Schiphol holds. Just to give you an idea of where we are looking in applying these, obviously small steps can be taken quickly, which are promotional gifts, acoustic panels, notebooks, lights, displays, and so on. But we're also moving into the construction. So on the construction site, temporary wall systems, ceiling panels, and furniture. And we have had a couple of upcoming projects which we are working jointly to test case the Ecor material to be applied there, which is Lounge and Terminal 1, which is retrofitted, the Premium Lounge, and also the offices of Schiphol. So far, we have been collaborating where we have done a lot of research on the technology. So we've proven that we can make these Ecor fiberboards out of a couple of waste stream Schiphol holds, not only the grass, but also the miscanthus, which is grown in the area, and on the paper and cardboard streams, Schiphol holds. We have done a business modeling session where we have defined all the products which you just saw, where the Ecor panels can be applied with a positive business case. And we're currently starting up the circular procurement, where Schiphol already starts using Ecor in its products and its projects. The next phase will be next year, where we actually will harvest the grass and transform that into the Schiphol grass alloy Ecor panel to replace the current standard Ecor we are using in the projects. We will scale this up and grow demand because obviously it's a new product. We need a couple of test cases also in practice to prove to the whole ecosystems of contractors, subcontractors, furniture manufacturers, but also internally to the project managers of Schiphol, that the Ecor panels are a good replacement for the current linear material they use. And that's how we will grow the market demand within Schiphol, but also outside Schiphol in the metropolitan area of Amsterdam. This was the community side Martijn is talking about. And once that demand grows, we can obviously supply more of Ecor grass alloy and therefore procure more volume of the grass, which then comes into a tipping point where we can start what we call a Ecor Living Factory. It's a local production facility near Schiphol premises that will be dedicated on making these grass panels and offsetting it within the Schiphol region. We expect this to take place in 2024, 2025, but we need to review this business case with the current COVID implementations. That was it from my part. If there are any questions, I'm very happy to take them. You can reach me after this meeting, but for now, we still have some time to take some questions.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks very much, Navied. While Martijn is rejoining us, hi Martijn. I just want to thank you both again for your contributions to those sessions. Really interesting, and certainly prompted some questions and some thoughts from me. I think I'll kick off, Navied, with one to you, which just came through regarding the panels. We've been asked, are they cradle to cradle certified? And it'd be interesting, if you can respond to that.
That's a good question. We have panels which are cradle to cradle certified. But we don't have all panels cradle to cradle certified. Cradle to cradle certification comes with 5 fields of research, of which 4 are uniform when making Ecor. That's the water stewardship, that's the social fairness part, that's the energy consumption, and that's the governance. What differs from Ecor alloy to Ecor alloy is the material input. Therefore, we are enforced with every new Ecor alloy to go into a whole loop of certification again, because we use a different feedstock, and that feedstock needs to be applied. When we go into an R&D, we can prove that we can make the Ecor, and we can also do pre-screening on toxic components and so on. But we only certify the panels which we take into production, because otherwise it's way too costly. So yes, those 4 parts which are uniform apply to all the other panels as well, but it depends on the feedstock and the supplier of the feedstock if he wants to cradle-to-cradle certify that specific feedstock as well. When talking with Martijn, we are now moving into production phase. Once we are in production phase, I think we are aligned that we will cradle-to-cradle certify the grass panels as well. So yes, we both have certified and non-certified panels, but all the panels go through the same process as the cradle-to-cradle certified.
And just thanks for that question. Very, very good question. And just taking that on a step further as well, a follow-up regarding the kind of the technical, if you like, features of the material, specifically regarding the how much moisture it retains and the kind of mechanical properties. Can you give us a little bit of indication of that?
Well, the Ecor qualifies as what we would say a high-density fiberboard. So everybody knows medium-density fiberboard because we call that MDF. This has a little bit more density. So we have a high-pressure process, which makes the density of the panels quite strong. Therefore, you could also use thinner panels with the same application, as they have a higher bonding strength, a higher bending ratio, and so on and so on. So you could slim down on the panels, but not so much on the weight because it's high density. We have about the same weight in a thinner panel. So it's a high density fiberboard, which we have about 1,000 kilos per cubic meter for an Ecor panel. That's about the density. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Navied. Cool. Welcome back, Martijn. A question for you then, and just something that occurred to me as you were discussing. It was mentioned by you both, in fact, but you mentioned collaborations, you mentioned partnerships. I'm wondering, in your opinion, how important are these partnerships to sort of developing this kind of zero emission, zero waste strategy for the Schiphol Group?
Well, the impact on our environment as an airport is quite large, and for our license to operate, we need to do something about that, and that has partly to do with investments in the aviation sector, but as well in the direct neighborhood of our airport. So it's good to have this circular thing going on, and to attract people who have new business into our neighborhood, and to have them offering solutions and new practice, and we can give it a try and then find out if we are going on with this or not. And as a matter of fact, Ecor came along like that, and it seemed like a good opportunity for us to work together with Ecor, and that was before we found out that the grass was a possible resource for Ecor. But we were then working with other waste streams to have put into a new use. And what we actually did is that we made a research and development agreement with Ecor to develop this product, and then we found a way to have our grass fibers put into the Ecor, and that really set off something, because when you have your people to tell stories like this on the birthday, it used to be like, oh, I'm working at Schiphol Airport, and then everybody was on your lips because it's interesting. And during the years where things got busier and people were more individually minded, it wasn't not so sexy anymore to work for an airport. And when you can be proud again for working for this company because you do this environmentally good things, and that you are doing something for the region, then it's nice to be able to tell that we actually use our grass to make panels, and that we will use the panels ourselves wherever we can. And the collaboration with startups for a corporate organization is maybe typically one that you give the startup a chance, and if he doesn't get through, well, it was a nice try, thank you, and we will go on. But we really try to make something out of it. So Navied and I really are in close contact, as well as different colleagues of mine who are working on the grass and on the main contractors, and we try to pull everybody into this pressure cooker where we can find out what the solutions will be. So also my colleagues for the regulations for fire safety are included, and they want to help as well, because we are in this together. It's our grass, it's our story, and we want to spread it. So that's why it's important.
I think that's a really important point, actually, as well. More and more taking pride in your job, I think, is a crucial thing to be doing. And from your position within the Schiphol Group, clearly driving and leading their kind of transition to a circular kind of working practice, I think must be something to be absolutely very proud of. And you mentioned in your presentation a few of these circular showcases that you've got. I wonder, are there any were some of those future schemes, or are they all kind of running at the moment? They're all in practice, and to what extent are you looking for other partners to join with you, or to contribute, or to investigate more schemes, more projects?
Well, most of them have been running, and some of them are still running. I think that most importantly is that we made our roadmap to zero waste, and we have discovered where we are, and we have defined where we want to be. So we know the steps in between, and one of the steps is that we have different kinds of residuals, and these residuals we have to do something with it. So we've done a job with Excess Materials Exchange, who helped us to identify the different streams, and they gave us a sort of strategy to work on these streams. So in the meantime, up to 2030, we need to change these waste streams. So waste is to be eliminated. It has to be changed into resource. So probably we have to procure different products, and we have to try to ban different products. And that has not only to do with what we procure, but it's also our business partners that sell coffee in cups, that they sell hamburgers, all this, and people bring stuff from home. So there will always be a small fraction of waste, but we can surely do something about the mainstream.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree with that. Okay, taking a slightly different approach, or a question from a different angle. And Navied touched on this in his presentation, but I wonder if each of you individually can, I suppose, give us an idea of what the challenges are that you perceive, both with regards to the zero waste, zero emissions target, but also these projects. What challenges are you faced with about trying to get, I suppose, identify from waste stream and get it to a finished product? If you can start perhaps, Martijn.
Well, for the grass, was to be what's it called? We needed to do something with it. It was waste. We couldn't keep it lying there, so you had to get it disposed of. And when you are able to find someone who can clean it for you, who can extract proteins and make a business case with that, and then the fibers can be used for Ecor, and then there's still some liquid parts of the grass in which we try to find a way to do something with it as well. There's also a study that we did on orange peels and coffee, and these sort of streams are really important for having a positive business case on your residual streams. But as a matter of fact, it's all in. It's a collaboration with business partners, and you have to consolidate all your streams to make it a stream is valuable for the market to do something with. So I think that being transparent and being able to cooperate and finding a mutual goal is something that we really need to establish. And with some business partners, we are on a good track, and others still are waiting what to do.
And Navied, challenges as far as you see them, or some of the challenges perhaps?
Yeah. I like to actually take on where Martijn left, and what I specifically learned in this project, and this partnership we are building. Every step on the way, you learn more on what you cannot do yourself, and it's very important to attract the right partners to help you with that. However, with every partner involved, it adds the dimension of complexity as well, and it also adds time, because obviously you need to also build a bond of trust. So it is, in a linear system, it's very easy to have a supplier-demand relationship where you can move forward quite quickly. Now, with all these different stakeholders, as you are actually in an innovation process involved at certain stages, it gives a little bit more complexity. And I have to say, I'm pretty impressed by the way we have done it and the role Schiphol there took, who has taken this overarching umbrella function where it says, okay, for the Ecor part, we contract this and we research this with Ecor. And for example, for the pre-process part, track directly with pre-processor, which makes the lines very clear. There was never any friction, for example, between the pre-processor and Ecor on how to collaborate, because Schiphol took that overall goal and set also the overall goal and ambitions on what to reach. So that's a very good one. That's from the sourcing side, but it also applies to, for example, the deployment side, where Schiphol really involves its contractors to be part of this, to prototype, to work, etc. That's something, given our skill, but also our track record, as we are a startup, we have this relatively small track record. It works for us to partner with a partner such as Schiphol to give that guarantee, so to say. Yeah.
I think that's another really interesting point. The kind of the collaborative nature of it brings with it some challenges, right? You've got these multiple different partners to kind of keep on board and on side. But yeah, appreciate that. Taking it again another step further, I mean, at a more perhaps macro level, what are your perceptions of the buoyancy or not of the market? I suppose on the one hand, right now, but also perhaps before we were kind of impacted by COVID. Where are you seeing kind of the opportunities?
Well, it depends what you define as a market. I showed this picture where we have both a supply and manufacturing and an offtake part of that supply chain. If you look at the offtake, for example, and you would compare it with a market for wood panels, we're talking about a 500 billion cubic meters per year demand in wood panels. So yes, that's a huge market. If you look at it and you tailor it, for example, to furniture manufacturing, we discard over 10 million tons of furniture in the EU alone per year. So yes, there's a challenge. If you look at it from a supply side, how many grass fields do you know? And we have about 14,000 airports worldwide.
Yeah.
Yes, it's scalable. But the huge potential is also a pitfall. It's very important to first select these partners to make these flagship cases, and then slowly, collaboratively work your way through. So keep that focus, because the pitfall is you will want to expand too quickly. Yeah.
And I suppose another question to you both. We're kind of approaching the end now. We've maybe got five or so minutes left, but Martijn, you mentioned that Ecor's come to you with this idea and this notion. Is that typical? Does in this idea of this kind of project to turn this waste stream into something else, is that the typical journey, or I mean, where to the both of you do these kind of ideas come from? Do you have R&D teams that are working on this? Is it kind of just conversational? Is it through meetings such as this? I mean, where does this kind of the ideas and the kind of projects come from?
Well, to be brief, we don't have a research and development section. We are an airport. We have a business, a running business. And in this running business, we develop projects, and these projects will be modifications to our terminal buildings, or maybe replacement of an operational building, like a fire station, for instance, or a security passway. And while defining the roadmap and defining the goal to become a circular airport, you have to find out ways to use different materials and to use different design methods to come to circular designs. So on the one hand, you can design for disassembly and then reuse components again and again, but it might be components that are not the best components to reuse because they contain toxic elements. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather have bio-based and even cradle-to-cradle certified building materials, but that's not for 100% possible yet, but we're getting there. So in events like this, you hear something and you see a probable solution, and with me there are many different people who go to seminars, who talk to people, and there's always someone who gets in the end an idea, and now it's channeled to me because I'm the sustainability advisor for this sort of things. I am the expert within the Schiphol Group. And then if I think it is something, then we can work on it. And it starts with just talking and trying to find out which possibilities we see and what hurdles to take. And but at this moment,
I agree. Fraser, it's events like these where it starts. So we have met at the Ellen MacArthur C100 meetings, where also Ecor has been part of as an emerging innovator for years. That's where we have started the journey with Schiphol. That it's really meetings like these where we get the opportunity to tell our story, or Schiphol gets the opportunity to tell its challenges and its vision. And if we match on vision and ambition, then you start the conversation on how you could help each other. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think for me, it started actually in Sustainable Brands 2018, where everything came together, and that's where I met a lot of people of Ecor, for instance. And then I didn't know that Navied was then not with Ecor yet. So yeah, it's funny.
Well, a really good point at which to say, well, let's all do it again then, both the next WasteBuild 365, but also at WasteBuild in Amsterdam in March. Just one final question that's popped in, and I'll direct this obviously directly at Navied. Question about the manufacture of the panels, Navied. Where is the manufacturing done?
Yeah, Rod, you're asking questions you already know. No, I'll be brief about that. We currently have our production facility in Serbia, in Europe, and we have made also a decision with Schiphol that we want to produce in the Netherlands. We're opening up our facility in the Netherlands as of next year. That's also why we are harvesting the grass next year. The research products which we have done has been done at our research and development facility, which is in the Netherlands. So there we have the capacity to look into different waste streams and test them to be made out of Ecor. And we used the standard panels, which are coming now out of the manufacturing, to prototype the projects and the product we are envisioning to apply in the Schiphol terminal so far. Yeah.
It actually was a question of Dr. Fiber himself.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question, Rod. Brilliant. Well, I just want to wrap it up then with my thanks again to you both. My thanks again for everyone for joining this session and for contributing throughout the whole event. Do feel free to reach out to any of the speakers or any of the people that you see listed on the People tab. Send them a direct message or reach out to them in some way throughout the rest of the event. And yeah, as I say, much appreciated. Really want to thank everyone for your time so far. And please join us in the rest of the sessions later this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Evie. Thanks, Martijn.
Bye.
Speak to you again. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.